For thousands of years, the art and monuments of ancient Egypt have been staring back at us. But the stories written on them, what the pharaohs and priests were actually thinking, well, that was all silent. Today, we're going to get into the incredible story of how Egyptian writing was born, how it lived for millennia, and how, after being totally lost to time, it was brought back from the dead. Okay, let's jump in. And that quote really sets the scene, doesn't it? For centuries, people would look at these beautiful, intricate carvings, and they were just pictures, mysterious symbols that held the secrets of an entire civilization. But the door was locked. You had this incredibly sophisticated world that had, for all intents and purposes, lost its voice. I mean, that's the real question, right? It's the ultimate cold case. Imagine finding a library full of books in a language that no one on Earth has spoken or read for well over a millennium. Where do you even begin? That's the puzzle we're going to unpack. So, to solve that puzzle, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, to the invention of the very first, and certainly the most famous, of all Egypt's scripts. The name itself tells you everything you need to know about how important this was. The Egyptians literally believed their writing was a gift from the gods speech. This wasn't just for, keeping records. It was a way to make words permanent, sacred, and powerful. It was a direct line to the divine. And what's truly mind-blowing is how fast it showed up. You see, with most other ancient scripts, you can watch them slowly evolve over hundreds of years. But hieroglyphs, they just appear. 1 minute, there's basically no writing. The next, boom, there's this incredibly complex and complete system. It's so sudden, some people even wonder if it was invented all at once by some unknown genius. So how did this thing actually work? Well, it was absolutely brilliant. The Egyptians used their little picture signs in 3 really clever ways. First, the simple way, as ideograms. A picture of a mouth means, you guessed it, mouth. But the real genius was in using them as phonograms, where a picture stands for a sound. And finally, they'd stick a little picture at the end of a word, a determinative, just to clarify what category it belonged to, kind of like a tag. And this is that rebus principle in action. It's the massive leap that changed everything. You stop looking at the meaning of the picture and start listening to its sound. An I, a B, and a leaf. It sounds like I believe. And just like that, writing could express any idea you could speak. The hieroglyph for mouth, for instance, could now be used for the R sound in any word. It was a game changer. Okay, so carving sacred texts into a stone monument is one thing. But what about a shopping list, or a business contract, or even just a personal letter? For everyday life, you need something way faster. And that's where hieratic comes in. Just think of it like this. Hieroglyphic is like our formal printed text. Every single sign is a beautiful little work of art. Hieratic is its cursive handwriting. It's the same system, the same signs, just simplified so you could write them quickly with a brush and ink on papyrus for all the day-to-day stuff. But, centuries go by, life gets even more complicated, and even hieratic starts to feel a bit slow, so it evolves again into an even more simplified, abbreviated script called demotic. Demotic comes from the Greek word for popular, and it became the go-to script for most regular Egyptians in the later periods. So you can see this long, overlapping history right here. It wasn't a clean break where one script ended and the next one started. For hundreds of years, all these scripts were living side by side. You'd have hieroglyphs for the big temple inscriptions, hieratic for religious scrolls, and demotic for everyday legal documents. It was a whole ecosystem of writing, until a huge cultural shift changed everything. So how on earth does a 3,500-year-old tradition of writing just vanish? Well, it actually happened surprisingly quickly. As Egypt gradually became Christian, the old scripts, which were so deeply connected with the pagan gods and their temples, they were just abandoned. To write the Egyptian language, they started using the Greek alphabet, and they just added a few extra letters for Egyptian sounds that Greek didn't have. This new script was called Coptic. And with that, the lights went out. One by one, the ancient scripts just fell silent. By about 452 AD, there was no one left who knew the secret of the god's speech. For over 1,400 years, the ancient voices of Egypt were gone. The code was completely and totally lost. Which brings us right back to our big question. How do you crack a code that's been silent for that long? Well, you need a key. And in 1799, that key was found. It was during Napoleon's campaign in Egypt. A group of French soldiers were working near a town called Rosetta, and they stumbled upon this big, dark stone slab.
This, of course, was the Rosetta Stone, and its importance was obvious right away. It was one single text, written 3 times, once in hieroglyphic, once in Demotic, and, crucially, once in ancient Greek, a language scholars could read perfectly. It was the ultimate cheat sheet, a dictionary just waiting to be written. Now, for 2 decades, the brightest minds in Europe tried and failed to make sense of it. The final, brilliant leap came from just one man, a prodigy who had been obsessed with Egypt since he was a little boy, Jean-François Champollion. So how did he do it? Well, Champollion figured that the symbols inside those oval rings, the cartouches, had to be royal names. He already had a good idea of the sounds for the name Ptolemy from the Rosetta Stone, but the real aha moment came with the name Ramses. He guessed that the first symbol, a sun disk, might be the Coptic word for sun, which is Re. He matched the other signs to their sounds, and suddenly he had Re, Mi, Sis, Ramses. And that was it. That was the proof. He had shown that hieroglyphs weren't just mystical symbols, they were a record of the spoken Egyptian language, a language that had actually survived inside the Coptic Church. On that day, a lost world was found again. A silent civilization began to speak, and the entire science of Egyptology was born. The story of Egyptian writing is just this incredible journey of invention, loss, and rediscovery. It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just buried under the sand. Sometimes it's hiding in plain sight, just locked away in a language we haven't figured out yet. It really makes you wonder, what other voices are out there, just waiting for their own Rosetta Stone to be found?